So why were you given the name Eagleheart?
So I was given that name by the elders in Canada, and then I was out in Oklahoma with some Kiowa friends, and one of the grandmothers said, "Do you have a medicine name?" And I said, "Yes, I was given a medicine name when I finished when I was up in Canada." And she said, "Well, I'd like to give you a name from the Kiowa people." And she said, "Well, the name that you're going to carry in your walk through life is Eagleheart." Like, oh, that's the same name I was given in Canada. Jokingly, a medicine person in Utah said to me, "So you know why you have that name?" And I said, "I really don't." And he said to me, your medicine name means that you can fly high enough above a situation to find a way to see the love. Any situation I've been in where there's any altercation, there is some perspective that I can have that I understand it and I accept it. And so I think that's the, eagle for the perspective and heart for the love.
There's a show on New Reality TV that just celebrated its 200th episode. 200th. Not its 10th, not its 50th, its 200th. I mean, you gotta think it doesn't happen by accident, right? Obviously that happens because the audience keeps coming back. And when I looked at why, well, it became pretty obvious pretty fast. The host, Carl Gruber, calls World Awakenings the fast track to enlightenment. That phrase is doing exactly what it's supposed to. Because what most people on the spiritual path quietly feel, but rarely say out loud, is, I don't want to spend 20 years meditating in a cave to figure this out. I want access to the people who have already done the work, who've already been through this transformation, who can hand me something real and useful right now. Now that's Carl's entire mission. He's a law of attraction life coach and a student of A Course in Miracles. He spent 200 episodes tracking down the best spiritual and metaphysical teachers on the planet and asking them the questions you'd ask if you had the chance. The range here is genuinely breathtaking. The science of miracles, what Yeshua says when channeled directly, how a woman healed herself from cancer naturally, what happens when the dying transition, med beds and Tesla energy, how love literally does not know death. 2 seasons, 60 plus episodes on the platform, all of it pointed at the same question. Why is the world waking up right now? And how do you make sure that you are part of it? World Awakenings with Carl Gruber. 200 episodes of the fastest path to enlightenment you're going to find anywhere. Streaming free right now on newrealitytv.com, or you can download the app on Roku and Fire TV. Watch it on your television set in the comfort of your own home for free. 200 episodes in, and he is just getting started.
This is World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with your host, Carl Gruber. World Awakenings is a podcast dedicated to opening your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how they play an all-important role in our daily life. So join Carl on this enlightening experience as he interviews metaphysical and spiritual experts to discuss, debate, and delve deeply into the hows and whys of this worldwide awakening.
Hey, welcome once again to World Awakenings, a fast track to enlightenment. I am your host, Carl Gruber. Now, if you are a seeker of understanding all things in the realms of spirituality and enlightenment, then hey, you're in the right place. Since 2018, we've been bringing you one-on-one conversations with some of the world's greatest teachers, masters, and experts in these fields, and this continues with this episode number 258. By the way, not only can you watch the show on YouTube, but you can also see it on New Reality TV, and of course listen to it anywhere in the world on Apple Podcasts. So, with that, off we go to meet our guest, and my guest on today's show is John Paul Fischbach, who is also known by his shaman's name, Eagleheart. A practicing shaman since 1987, he guides the spiritually curious into transformational experiences, bridging the gap between the seen and unseen, and fostering a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. Eagleheart has dedicated his life to creating profound connections between the natural and spiritual worlds, and is known for his work as a ceremony man and sight whisperer. In addition to his shamanic practices, he is also a theater and film director, blending his artistic talents with spiritual insights. And he's currently working on an international documentary series, The Shaman and the Stones, which follows a team of scientists and wisdom bearers and himself to sacred sites around the world. So with that, hey, welcome John Paul, or Eagleheart, to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're traveling the world. Let's see, you're now right in the moment in Calgary, Alberta, but don't you reside in Australia?
I do. I live in Melbourne, Australia, and currently I just finished doing some preliminary filming at a place called Iniskim Umapi.
Oh,
Iniskim
wow.
Umapi, which is a medicine wheel on the top of a hill in southern Alberta. Archaeological excavation dates this to about 5,000 years ago.
Wow. And this is you're filming this to be part of your documentary, right?
Yep.
And I'm just curious. So you live in Australia, but you sound American.
So the short version is I'm American by birth, Canadian by choice,
Oh,
and now Australian by destiny.
yeah. Well, Australia is a beautiful country, so, and I like it because it's warm there.
Yes, exactly.
So, before we dive into everything you do as a shaman and a sight whisperer, I'd like to find out more about your earlier years. This is kind of my MO. I want to know more about the young John Paul Fischbach before he became Eagleheart. What led you to do what you do now, and what were you like as a kid?
So I was the theater kid. So I was always the theater director. I was writing shows, creating theater. I was the little kid that got all the neighborhood kids to be in a show in my parents' basement. So I was doing that all through school, and I went to like the high school of performing arts kind of thing. So I was a theater kid. And it just so happened that one time it started for me when I was in London. I was directing shows in London, and a friend came over to visit, and he wanted to go to a psychic fair. And I had absolutely no interest in anything psychic. I was like, whatever, sure. I'm a theater guy. I don't know. The only thing was that I had a voice that told me how to heal. So if I got sick, I would hear a voice and it would tell me what to do to get well. I never thought that was odd, weird, different. Just was. So it never occurred to me that that was anything special or that there were guides or any of this. But we go off to this psychic fair, and there's a woman that's doing past life readings. And so she has everyone assembled to try to demonstrate what she does, and then you book individual sessions. And she goes around the room and she looks at everyone and says, oh, yes, high priestess, something, something, Cossack soldier, something, something. And she looks at me and she goes, oh, and moves on. So I was a bit curious why I was just, oh. And the long story short is she says, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I really screwed this up. You should just go have fun, because when you turn 27 for your Saturn return, everything's going to change. But right now, I think I was 24 at the time, 23, 24. Just go enjoy life. Just go enjoy life. I have nothing else to tell you. Sorry.
Wow.
And then it happened. The Saturn return happened, and I found myself apprenticed to a native Inuit white bear medicine woman. And spirits took over because a shaman's training is really led by spirit. You have physical teachers, which are great, and I was passed from grandmother to grandmother and medicine man all around the planet, which was fascinating and beautiful to have those human teachers. And again, that was 1987.
Well, let me get this straight. You're in London working on theater. Then you're told at the age of 27 all things were going to change, and you're in London. Next thing, you have a Inuit mentor.
Yeah.
How did you end up with her?
Well, it's a very funny story. So I'm directing operas in Chicago, and I'm supposed to be meeting a friend for tea or lunch or snack or something. At this time in my life, I'm a Nichiren Shoshu Buddhist.
Okay.
So this was a friend from the Buddhist circle, and I go to this it was the first New Age. So 1987 was the time of the harmonic convergence.
Mm-hmm.
And it was I call it the first wave of New Age stuff. So I'm at this cafe and he's not there. And so I'm looking around and there's a bunch of magazines and one of them's called The Monthly Aspectarian. I don't think it's published anymore. So I pick it up because New Age, I don't know, whatever. So I'm leafing through this and, I'm kind of looking and thinking, oh, well. So then back in those years, we all had answer machines in our places. And you could go and you could dial your phone number. And then when you heard the tone, you would put in a code and that would play your messages for you. So I thought, well, I'll see if he's late or he's, canceled or something, left me a message. No messages, but when I get back to my table, the magazine's on a different page. And I think, well, that's weird. Why random? Why would someone come and turn the page? Oh, well. So I'm just looking at this page that it's on now, and my vision starts to go. And it starts to whoosh. And I think, oh, no, I'm having a stroke. Who knows what's going on. Brain aneurysm. So I'm a little bit panicked. And I hear the voice that says, you're fine. Calm down. Just breathe. Just breathe. Okay. So I'm scanning because now I just have just the tiniest amount that I can see. And I'm sort of scanning the page, trying to see anything and let my vision clear. And everything's blurry except this one tiny little ad that said about this woman that's coming to Chicago. And, it was something like find your purpose or meet your spirit guides. I can't remember now. But that I can read that. And as I find that and to read that, the voice said, just breathe. Remember, just breathe. So I'm just looking at this and I'm breathing and suddenly my vision starts to clear and I think, okay, that was weird. So I'm staying with my sister at the time and I go home and I tell her this weird thing happened. And she said, well, show me the magazine. I said, well, I don't have it. She said, John Paul, what do you mean you don't have it? So we drive back to the cafe. I pick up the magazine. I find the ad. And she says, well, it's a 3-week or 6-week course or something. That's what I'll get you for your birthday. Because my birthday is in September. So okay, sure. I don't know. So I go to the first class and it's the wildest experience. The curtains billow, the door slams, the candle goes out, the room is filled with this fragrance of roses. It's like, what the hell is going on? And so it turns out that she has to go, I think, do some healing work with someone in Texas or something. So she said, look, I have to shorten our class. So instead of 6 weeks, it's going to be 3 weeks, but we're going to meet twice a week. And it meant that the final class was actually on my birthday. So in the middle of this, I'm at a restaurant with some friends, and a waiter comes across to us, hands me this piece of paper and says, I have never done this in my life. This is so bizarre, but I just have to tell you, you have to go to this address and see this naturopath. Like, okay. So I go and it's closed. They're out of business. But next door, there's a sign in the window that says free numerology reading. So I'm like, hmm. So I go and the numerologist looks at my chart and he says, oh, I see a couple of these. I've only seen a couple of these. So he explains the Saturn return thing. And he said, look, for you, it's going to be incredibly intense. I would just stay under the covers I wouldn't go anywhere. I would just stay put. It's going to
Wow.
be really intense. Just stay home. Just don't do anything. But it just so happens that this is our last class on my birthday. And it's a horrible day. My truck gets broken into, the radio is stolen. I almost get mugged in the street. I mean, I should have stayed home. Anyway, and that at the end of that experience, she took me on as an apprentice and then passed me around from elder to elder, grandmother to, and that was for a year and a day. And at the end of that, I was passed on to two medicine men up here in Canada, and they took me on for the 7 years for male initiation.
Wow. Talk about lots of synchronicities. Holy
Yeah,
mackerel.
yeah,
Um, so she's Inuit. Aren't the Inuits based up in the Arctic?
yep,
So did you ever go up there?
no.
Okay, interesting. And also, could you explain what is the Saturn return you've referred to a couple times?
So when you turn 27, 27, 28, somewhere in there, in terms of astrology, it's your Saturn return, which is the time that the planets align in an orientation that's familiar to your birth orientation. And it's a call for your soul to make a correction, to do the work of your soul. So lots of people, when they turn 27, find that they quit their jobs, they end their relationships, they start a relationship. So some big life-changing event often happens at 27. So it's called your Saturn return because it's when your soul calls to you to do the work of your soul.
Wow, when I was 27, I was a hippie out of Ohio State. I think I was just stoned on that day. That's about all I remember. I
Yeah.
had I had fun, so they tell me,
Yeah.
but wow, some amazing stuff. So why were you given the name Eagleheart?
That's been a life's journey to understand that name. So I was given that name by the elders in Canada, and then I was out in Oklahoma with some Kiowa friends, and one of the grandmothers said, "Do you have a medicine name?" And I said, "Yes, I was given a medicine name when I finished when I was up in Canada." And she said, "Well, I'd like to give you a name from the Kiowa people." And I said, "Sure." And she said, "Well, the name that you're going to carry in your walk through life is Eagleheart." Like, oh, that's the same name I was given in Canada.
Oh,
I
wow.
went, okay, I guess that'll fit. So, what jokingly, a medicine person in Utah said to me, "So you know why you have that name?" And I said, "I really don't. I'm not, I'm not kind of an eagle. I'm bears. Bears, I have tons of stories of being with bears. So I said, bears, I get. Eagles, sure." And he said to me, your medicine name means that you can fly high enough above a situation to find a way to see the love." And and I think that's true, that any situation I've been in where there's any altercation or a horrible, genocide or anything, there is some perspective that I can have that I understand it and I accept it. And so I think that's the, eagle for the perspective and heart for the love.
A Course in Miracles calls that rising above the battleground and being able to look
Oh,
down objectively in the same thing. And for me personally, I've always had what I call the Eagle King. And sometimes when I feel a little down or something like that, King, when I'm meditating, comes down and lifts me up on his back and takes me high, high, high above
oh,
into the clouds, into the sun, and it's always refreshing. Doesn't always happen, but I call them in sometimes. But I've got
oh, well,
to
thanks
ask.
for that.
Yeah, yeah. Say, next time you see the Eagle King, tell him I said hi. But I want to ask. Most shamans, and probably sure I'm stereotyping, do plant medicine ceremonies. Did you ever do that?
That's not, that's, you are stereotyping.
Yes.
So I have done that for myself as journeys, but I don't facilitate plant medicine experiences. That's not particularly my work.
I'm thinking more of probably
Um,
South
so I
American.
think that,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Okay.
occasionally in this walk of 30 some years, people come and, thinking, "So can I do plant medicines with you?" And I said, "It's not my thing." So I
Yeah.
think it's the ability that we all have as shaman to move between worlds. And I
Hmm.
think that the plant medicines open a gateway and open a window, open a door, open a gate, whatever, to show you the world that really exists, the multidimensional reality that we live in.
I think
And I think sometimes that's a help for people.
I think growing up when I did, in the 60s and 70s, one of the first books that I even knew anything about shamans was Carlos Castaneda's
Of
book,
course.
The Teachings of Don Juan, which was
Yeah.
was pretty mind blowing, to read about that for the first time. So yeah, shape shifting, different dimensions, that type of thing. Well,
Yep.
let's find out more. Tell us about your mission over these last 30 years of visiting sacred sites around the world and becoming what you call a ceremony man and site whisperer.
So at the end of my formal men's initiation, anyone, I was taken into the teepee to talk with the elders, and that's your talk about, your purpose and where they see where the community slash the world needs your medicine work. So we're in the teepee and I'm getting my counseling, and they said that I was to live to a time when the world would be dangerously out of balance, and that I was to use my gift of going to sacred sites around the world, contacting the ancestors, and asking for help and advice to make a course correction for our time. So that's what I've been doing for 30 years, is going to sacred sites. And when I go to a site, if I tune in and I'm clear and I follow my protocol of introducing myself, stating my intention, asking for permission, um, and then I simply state this purpose. And I said, look, I'm here to learn and to listen. We're living in troubled times. I'm curious about how you lived in this time, in this place, how this place helped bring balance to the people. And I would love if you can share any of that I can take back to my time. And then I look around and it's Tuesday 5,000 years ago. So it's what I've learned over the years is it's the same day in the same time of the year, but in a kind of parallel dimensions that exist in this particular place. So I don't see an omniscient spirit who, tells you everything and explains. I end up seeing the place as it is on this Tuesday, 5,000 years ago, and I end up talking to whoever's there. So it could be fixing the trail, it's someone that's, doing a healing. It's quite common that I see somebody else because it's a different day in a parallel timeline. So that's the work. So I've been gathering all of that information and all of that wisdom for 30 plus years.
Well, considering the world is here in 2026 dangerously out of balance, what you're doing is incredibly important work. And thank you for doing it. And it's interesting with the world so out of balance, the humanity in that out of balance situation. It's also interesting how the rise of just like what this show talks about, enlightenment and spirituality, the humanity is actually awakening more like than it's ever had at any time before, in counterbalance to this out of balance situation for the world and humanity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's important that, people are discovering that there's more to this reality. There are layers to this reality. It's not just this, five senses physical dimension. And I think that's really powerful. And I love the fact that people are curious. The people that you've gathered watching this podcast, listening to this, are the seekers. And I'd love that people are curious. And I think that that's great. I mean, I always say to people, look, when they say, well, so what, what's the difference between, isn't shamanism just another religion? And I said, look, to me, religion is your belief in someone else's experience.
Mm.
So if you look at Christianity, it's your belief in the experience of Jesus. And you believe in that experience. Shamanism is your belief in your own direct experience. Because if it happens to you, that's something you can trust, believe in, search out, communicate with. So I think that's the fundamental difference. And I love it that more people are questioning and they're wanting that direct experience. They're saying, okay, I think there's more to this. How do I open that door? How do I experience it? How do I know? that there's more to this dimension.
Very interesting. Just quickly, I'm going to let you know some of your signals breaking up a little bit. So, you're still here. So if I
Okay.
accidentally step over you, I apologize about that. But
No worries.
we're all good right now. Now,
Okay.
in doing these visits to sacred sites, you've had some pretty amazing encounters with nature spirits, earthbound spirits, and non-ordinary intelligences. What I'm sure, are there a couple maybe really memorable encounters you've had you might be able to relate to us?
A couple.
Well, one
This,
or, a
this,
couple. We
this is
only have time for a couple.
no, this podcast is going to go for what, 10, 11 hours? I think we can cover a few
All
here.
right, what the heck?
So pick
Well,
animal, vegetable,
I'm
mineral, people. What?
well. What's happened to you? I want to find out. You're about to leave for Bosnia to the Valley of the Pyramids. What about your encounters there?
Sure. So uh, I knew of it, but like everyone, what you know about the Bosnian pyramids is Googling it. And when you Google it, you get all of the press that was saying, all the controversial press that says, oh, it's not, it's just a hill. It's this guy, this American guy, it's a scam. Well, none of that is true. Sam Osmanagic is Bosnian. He has done this and created this park. He's done, all of this work with volunteers and a team. He has no government funding. He does this because he's passionate about what he's discovered. And now, 20 years later, there are 40 plus academic, scientific, published in peer-reviewed journals, articles verifying all of the science about this place. That this pyramid is constructed. They have found the stones that construct this giant, giant pyramid of the sun. They have scientific teams come every year for a conference. They remeasure the beam coming out of the top of the pyramid of the sun. So I wish that you could somehow change the internet and the Google search to be this information. That
Mm.
there was controversy at the beginning because it's huge. The Pyramid of the Sun is 300 meters tall. So the Giza pyramids are like 100 something. So it's massive. And it's a hard one to grasp because you look at this and you think, well, that's a hill. It's a peculiar hill because it's got four complete, sides. It's got the angles. The sides are oriented to the cardinal directions. And then there's this 28 kilohertz beam shooting out of the top of it. So something's going on here. It's not a normal hill. Um, so a dear friend of mine who is Italian, who runs tours with groups to the Bosnian pyramid, has met Sam for years. She kept saying, "Oh, John Paul, please come. Please, please come. I'd love to know, what the spirits of this place have to say." So finally I said, all right, I'll come. And blew my mind. Unbelievable. So we got it, that was in 2024. And we got to visit a whole bunch of the sites. So there's not just the Pyramid of the Sun. There are 5 pyramids in this valley. There are these incredible tunnels that are healing places. You can hike in these tunnels at this point they've excavated the tunnels to about I think it's about half a kilometer into the side of the hill. The tunnels seem to be aiming toward the Pyramid of the Sun, and they have no ventilation shafts, yet they have incredible pure oxygen and fresh air. How does that happen? The ozone layer in the tunnels, the ozone concentration is incredibly high, like 10 times that of a beautiful waterfall. And people report incredible healing experiences being in these tunnels. So it is one of the most incredible places for for my kind of work and for archaeology and anybody that's curious. You can go there. I mean, he's built this whole park that you can go. It's free. You can go into the tunnel. They run tours. Depending on guides, you tip the guide or you might hire a guide to take you to some of the other sites. Um, but I think we're at the time when all of this information needs to be shared. What are these places? Why are they? When were they? So that's been my work.
Hmm.
So then I've done some episodes for Gaia TV, and they asked me to come with them to Bosnia last year about this time. And we filmed for 5 days in and around various sites. And so that was my second trip. And so now I'm going back again because this Italian friend of mine, Christina, and I are working on a book about what the spirits are telling me about this site.
Have you encountered any spirits from the time when the pyramids were constructed?
So that's what I focused on. So I've learned over 30 years that I used to just dial into or listen to the dominant frequency. So I always use the radio metaphor. And I say, look, right now, there are dozens of radio stations broadcasting. You're not hearing them unless you tune into them. And you don't hear them all. You can tune into each one. So when we're in Bosnia, I said, look, I think I need to focus on two periods. The people that were the beings that were there for the construction, and then the tunnels, sidebar, from evidence, organic evidence that they have found in the tunnels as they excavate them, they were all backfilled with rubble. So somebody, some culture filled in the tunnels, closed them up, filled them with debris, and that was about 5,000 years ago.
Wow.
So I said, well, look, I either want to contact the spirits and the ancestors of the builders or the culture that filled in the tunnels. So those were my two focuses. So I have some information that was shared with me, and the construction of this incredible place took thousands of years, according to what the spirits are telling me. It started by the dominant civilization at that time, which feels to me like Atlantean. But you can't ask these spirits, are you Atlantean? Because they don't know that term. Like, oh, what? So that's our word for them. That's not their word for them. So there was a dominant culture that was doing pyramids all over the place because they were helping the earth to stabilize itself back. Who knows, right? So what Sam and his team have explored is this, to identify that this was a built pyramid. This is not a natural hill. They discovered blocks, and at 1 year, they got a crane in and they lifted one of these giant blocks. And they're not solid blocks like Giza pyramids. They're a conglomerate block. So they're huge, rectangular in shape. The dimensions are consistent. And when they lifted one of these blocks, there were some fossilized leaves in there. So now they had organic material to go date. So again, long story short, 3 different labs return dates of 30,000 years ago,
Wow.
33,000 years ago, and 29,000 years ago.
Wow.
So that starts the mystery. Who was it that was around 30,000 years ago to build this giant thing?
Yeah.
So you have to accept that now I'm talking to builder spirits who were here 30,000 years ago on this Tuesday at this location. So I quite often met what I would call engineers. So they weren't the worker guys. They're like the supervisor or the engineer that's on site, kind of inspecting what's going on, which is great for me because they've got lots of information. So for me, the best thing is to have someone traveling with me so that I can find the frequency, tune in and hold that. They can ask all the questions. So like a good channel or a trance channel, I don't trance out, but as a good channel, I can just translate. I don't have to switch consciousness from this time to that time, back to this time. I can just hold this and I can just repeat, they ask a question, spirit answers. So engineers were explaining lots about the construction of this whole valley. And that what they did is they asked Gaia for permission to build the largest pyramid. And they wanted the largest pyramid because they had lost direct communication with lots of the galaxies and star beings and star civilizations. So they wanted this giant pyramid to make really good connection with the cosmos and with the rest of civilization on the planet. So the first thing was to gather the energy of this particular valley. So on the earth, the valley where Visoko is, this town, there's an incredible concentration of earth energy, so strong that everyone has known about it. So in the valley, there's a synagogue, there's a mosque, there's a Christian church. I mean, everybody has known that there's something about the energy at this place. So this ancient civilization asked Gaia, can we use this earth energy to focus it by constructing a pyramid? And evidently, from what I've been told, she said, sure, but you can't build it on top of this energy site. It's too strong. So you need to, build off of it. You can tap that energy, but you can't be on top of that energy. So for hundreds, if not thousands of years, this project was developed with various alien races that had particular expertise. So one of the first things was, in order to create this new location, they had to relocate a river. So these particular alien species who was good with that kind of work with water and reshaping came and said, sure, we'll help. So they came and they were part of the changing of the river. But the thing that I take from this for all of us is that there was a time 30,000 years ago to about 5,000 years ago when we knew that we were part of a large, beautiful galactic family. And we worked together and we shared and we communicated and we helped each other. And I think that's one of the things that we need to take. If we're living in this time of disclosure, then I think let's reframe that to say we're finally coming back to the table with our beautiful galactic family. And we're once again going to honor each other and acknowledge that everybody has different gifts and hopefully be welcomed back into the family.
Wow, that's some amazing information. So it's incredible that you had to had a conversation with 30,000-year-old construction workers.
Oh yeah.
And so let me get this right. The pyramid in Bosnia is actually like a broadcast communication device with the rest of the universe, right?
Yep. Yep. So this beam that goes up, the cap of the pyramid has been dismantled. So the beam isn't as strong as it was, and it's not as focused as it was. But it has a slight tilt throughout the day. It semi follows the sun, not specifically, but of course, sort of. So you can imagine that this beam is circling, so it's sending signals out. So messages go out, messages come in. In the valley, there are other kinds of mounds, tumuli that were like little local post offices. So messages would come, they would be decoded, they could get sent to these satellite tumuli. And so the local communities that were living at the time and for thousands of years could go, they could send a message, they could receive a message. So as part of this incredible energy that like all pyramids, they generate energy. And they focus the energy so that we can use that energy. And the energy is used for the transformation of materials. It's used for healing. It's just raw energy that has just, what Carol would call potential. That it's just the energy of potential, and that it's up to your intention and your skill to focus and concentrate and use that energy.
It's just astounding to me what humanity has forgotten over the last several thousands of years. But, that's why we're here. We're helping with that reawakening. We are talking to John Paul Eagleheart. He is an amazing shaman. He's actually a member of the global community. I mean, you kind of reside in Australia, but you're everywhere. Yeah. But I would like to shift gears a little bit here. So you deal with people who have left their human body when they die, and they don't necessarily automatically transition right to heaven. Some stay stuck in the spirit world because they're confused about what's happening to them, right?
Absolutely.
How do you help them?
So spirit does a lot for us, particularly when you're a shaman. So you think, well, how do I give back? What is it that what could I possibly do to help spirit? So being what's called a psychopomp. someone who can help trapped spirits, is one of the things that I can do to pay back. So I was trained in how you do this, and I'm happy to do it. It's exciting work to do. But I think that's my gift back to spirit, is to say, great, it's something I can do to help spirit, so let's go. So you understand that I've come to understand that for whatever reason, guilt, shame, war, that you were separated from your body really quickly and you have no idea what just happened. So traffic accidents result in being stuck here because you missed your white light. So I have had to accept that the whole white light thing is real. That when you die, that your spirit, there is a portal that opens, and if you go toward the light, then you move on and you get your choices of, do you want to come back? Do you want to hang out? Do you want to go somewhere else? Um, so that transition portal, but for whatever reason, you can deny that, you can miss that, and you're stuck. So you find me or another psychopomp uh, and ask for our help if you want to go. And we, a living human, is what's required to draw down this white light portal. So angels can't do it for you, other spirits can't do it for you. For some reason, it needs us. And I think that's because you're wanting to leave this dimension. So if we're in this dimension, then it makes sense that we can bring that into this dimension. So I think that's why it's the work of a shaman, is to say, I'll reach out to the great beyond, but I'll try to find a place to anchor that into this dimension. So I do that, and the spirits exit. So there's lots of funny stories if you want some funny stories about this experience, but
Oh, yeah.
that's the work.
I was wondering if you've had interesting encounters where spirits sought you out and asked your help.
So I live, as you said, in Melbourne, Australia, and I've been doing the psychopomp work for the whole time I've been a shaman. And so I have a portal in the house, and so spirits often show up. It's not uncommon that this happens. So when I moved into this apartment, I built an altar in the corner by a beautiful big window, and I thought, well, that'll be the altar, and occasionally when spirits come, well, I guess there hasn't been a psychopomp in the neighborhood for quite some time. So it was a pretty steady stream of trapped spirits going, "Hi, so can you help me?" And the altar was near my dining table. So all day and night, it was very annoying. Happy to do it, but it was annoying. So I said, all right, we have to make a deal here. So I installed a motion sensor light switch in my entryway. And I said, okay, this is the deal. I created an energy boundary that they couldn't come in further than that entryway. But if you're here for psychopomp, if you're here to transition, you have to blink the light. You have to trigger the motion sensor. So that's been great. So for 20 years, I'll be in my apartment and suddenly the entryway light blinks and I'm like, oh, somebody's here. So
Time to
I'll
go
go to
to
the
time to go to work.
time to go to work. And you meet a variety of a variety, you get to see things that I wish I didn't have to see. Horrible, disfigured car accident spirits, roadkill animals come as well. And one of my favorites was a guy that came with some traffic accident victims, but he wasn't part of the traffic accident. So the traffic accident family transitioned away, and that was beautiful, and that was really lovely. And I said, and he's like, "Oh, it's okay." I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. So then, like within a couple of hours, he's back, and he's got more spirits. And so this went on for a couple of days, and I was like, okay, I don't know. So finally, I said, "So what's the deal, dude? You're bringing these spirits, but you're not leaving." So what happened across 8 months was I kind of became friends with Jerome. And Jerome told me his story that he worked in the building. So I live in a loft apartment from an old warehouse. And he worked there, I think in the 1950s. 50s or 60s. And every at the end of every week, they would get their pay packet. So it was a little envelope of cash, which was your pay for the week. And he was feeling sorry for himself and pretty, cranky. And so he went to the local pub and he drank the pay packet. Uh, and as far as he thinks, he was leaving the pub and he fell down and hit his head on the bluestone pavement. Because the next thing he remembers is seeing his body being put into a van. So, and he's just ashamed because he died and left a wife and children. He feels terribly guilty and response, that what an idiot that he went, he didn't help his family. So he wasn't going to transition because he was just too guilty. He just felt sad and guilty. So then he's kind of across 8 months found that this was his purpose, that his purpose was to help spirits find me and leave. So, lots of conversations. And I had to kind of say, look, Jerome, I can't really be your friend. I'm busy, I'm doing things. Because every time after spirits would leave, he would want to chat. And I'm like, well, sure, Jerome, happy to, have a bit of a chat. Um, so he has watched his wife die, he's watched his children die, he's watched his grandchildren die, and he just says, well, now I really can't go because if I were to see them in the afterlife, I would just be so guilt-ridden. So I'm not going. I'm just going to stay and do this work. It's the first time in my life that I felt I've had purpose. It was, very sweet. So this goes on, as I said, for 8 months of him bringing, and he kind of exhausted the neighborhood. And then he would say things like, "Well, where do I find more?" And I said, "Well, hospitals." So he was helping clean up find the lost trapped spirits. So I was with a Aboriginal elder in the apartment, and so we were sitting at the dining room table, and she's facing the doorway, and she says, "Oh, the light just went." And I thought, "Oh, it's Jerome." So I said, "Look, he wants to chat. So we're having a lovely visit." So I said, "Look, we'll have to have a little bit of a chat with him, but I want to spend time with you, Auntie Barb. So, we'll just go." So we go to the door, and she's an Indigenous medicine person, so she's, wow, this is great. And so she sees what I see, and we help. And so I had warned her. I said, "Look, after the transition, Jerome's going to want to chat." So we do this. We start walking back into the apartment, and the light blinks again. And so I'm like, "Oh, that's Jerome wanting to chat." So we go back, and I said, "Look, Jerome." And he said, "No, no, I'm ready." "What?" And he said, "No, I'm ready." So it was really emotional for me. So I drew down the portal, and he bravely walked and transitioned away. And I just thought it was bitter. It was an incredibly bittersweet moment to think that finally he's decided that he's done this work, but it's time to, you know. So that's one of my favorite stories was Jerome.
Wow. Well, that is amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That is absolutely incredible. John Paul Eagleheart, we've got maybe 10 minutes or so. I mean, I've got so many questions. I wish we had more time, but like you said, we could talk 10 or 11
Yeah,
hours. But I do. There's a couple more things I would like to ask.
sure.
You are doing some ongoing work with the 44 grandmother spirits. Who are they? What are they? And how do you work with them?
So in the very, very beginning of my journey, um, White Bear was told by her spirit guides that I was to work with the Council of Grandmothers. So she said, "Look, you're being called to work with the grandmothers. It's weird, you're a guy." So I don't know why, but they said you're going to work with the grandmothers. So here's the ceremony. Perform the ceremony, and if you're supposed to do this, they'll share with you the song, the ceremonial song. Okay. So I performed the ritual. I received the song. I'm like, okay. So then it's this shaman journey that I have. That's like any, a lower world journey or any kind of a shaman journey to another dimension. And I go and I'm in this cave, and there's this council of 44 grandmothers. around. And they're not all there. Some of them, there's a space where there would be a grandma, but it's empty. And it's like a little sign that says, back in 10 minutes, or, a little talisman or bowl of explain to me that they are a group of female spirits that recognize that we no longer live in tribal societies. So you can't just go talk to your elders. You can't just go to the teepee and talk to your elders. So they thought that was a gap, that was a big problem. So they agreed to not reincarnate and to stay in this dimension to act as guides and advisors for people. So when you needed to talk to your elders, sit with your grandma, you could access them, and they would be there because they, had your highest good, your best intentions. And so that's been the case. So people come for a grandmother session, and I just facilitate this dialogue. So they ask the client questions, the client asks them questions. So it's not a reading in the traditional sense of a tarot reading or, what's my future and, will I find love? It's not that at all. It's, like you would want to talk to your elders. I'm thinking about this new job. I'm thinking about making this move. And you want counsel from your elders and your grandmothers. So they're very, very practical. They are not the lovely grandmothers that are just going to say nice things to you. They're pretty hardcore when they need to be. But I think over the years, what I've learned is most of their guidance is because people have lost knowledge, conscious knowledge of their medicine. So they don't know what they're supposed to be doing. And the grandmothers help people recognize this is your medicine. And they question the clients a lot and said, so have you noticed? And what does it feel like? And people go, oh, well, yeah, I guess that is my thing. So, mine is sight whispering, and other people have different particular, I just had a client, and what the grandmothers helped her realize is that she is a mirror of potential. So when she's working with someone, she sees their soul purpose and, what they could, who they actually are at the soul level. And she just reflects that back to them. So council, not all 44 show up every time. Usually it's a small group that connects in some way to the client. So, you'll get six. I think this woman had seven of them. And sometimes they argue among themselves. They'll say, don't say that, she doesn't. Blah, blah, blah. So
I think I saw on your website that, yeah, people, you can have your client come and talk to the grandmothers, and you even have a little thing in there that said they can be confrontational.
yeah. So,
True grandmothers, right? Yeah.
yeah. So, some of them, it's not uncommon that they'll say things when they get into a relationship question. They'll say, you need to get rid of that guy.
Aw.
You
Well,
know, you,
I've got to ask this too. One thing, and this bugs me a little bit, but one thing I've encountered as I pursue my understanding of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening here on this show, I sometimes get comments from people immersed in their religious dogma and they comment that, oh, this is the work of the devil and demonic. What are your thoughts on that?
I think that we have been trained in our modern culture to be motivated by fear. And I think the media trains us for that.
Yeah.
So you're motivated by fear. So the minute that anything is strange, different, other, it's to be feared. And that fear, we are meaning making machines. That's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
So we will create meaning. So you've encountered something that's different, that's other, that's strange, that's out of the ordinary for you. So when you're afraid because that's different. So you start to be afraid. So then your meaning making machine kicks in and you decide that, well, this is wrong or this is bad. And unfortunately, once fear takes hold, there's not a lot we can say to anyone
Mm-hmm.
because fear is so, the power of fear, the media, hello, we've just lived through, incredible. So there's not a lot we can say to anyone. If they're completely wrapped in the fear, there's not a lot you can say. You can just listen. And again, it's the Eagleheart thing. You just listen and you let them, and you can say, well, that's not been my experience. All I can tell you is that has not been my experience. In 30 years of doing this, I have not encountered dark, evil, nothing has manipulated, I have not become ill. So none of those dark things have happened. And I can just share my experience, and you just have to leave it at that.
Yeah, I think you're right. Our programmed paradigms create our own reality, and if it's based on fear, then you're going to live a reality of fear.
Yep, yep, yep.
Unfortunately.
And, we're in an unstable time.
Oh
So
boy.
I think people gravitate to anything that gives them stability. So, family, children, there are positive things that give you stability. The trees, I mean, trees are incredible for grounding and centering and stability, but it can be a belief system. So if the belief system gives you a sense of comfort and stability, stay with that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, John Paul Fischbach, known as Eagleheart, the shaman, we love what you did here. My gosh, I'm going to have to book another show with you sometime. Although you're traveling the world, I mean, I didn't even get close to half of the things I want to. We didn't even get to Tim the Tree, but I'm going to have to refer people to your website to do that. What is your website?
So it's eagleheart.com.au.
Yeah, absolutely, and I will put that in there. You're doing a documentary film trailer. You're about to leave for Bosnia for the Valley of Pyramids. How cool is that?
Yes, and then off to Orkney because there's a new discovery on the Scottish island of Orkney.
Ooh, well, you're gonna. We're out of time, darn it! You're gonna have to tell me what that is. All right,
Yeah.
John Paul, thank you for blessing us with being here. Thank you for blessing the world with what you do, and all the friends beyond the scene who you help so much too.
Well, thanks for being a place where the curious can go and explore their curiosity. So thank you as well.
This has been another episode of World Awakenings, the fast track to enlightenment with host Carl Gruber, a certified law of attraction life coach. We welcome you to tune in to each and every episode of World Awakenings as we open your mind, your heart, and your eyes to the fact that the world's population is now, more than ever, awakening to the truth of all things spiritual, metaphysical, and enlightening, and just how much they play an all-important role in our moment-to-moment daily life. Much love and light to you, my friend, and thank you for tuning into World Awakenings.